If you haven't checked out my other reviews and overviews on the Hone rolling knife sharpener, check it out here up above, and you'll see I was talking about some future discs coming out, and guess what? We're gonna check it out, we're gonna fire up this knife sharpener, we're gonna sharpen some knives, and we're gonna see how it comes out. This is the Hone knife sharpener. With 15 degrees and 20 degrees to sharpen your knives, this sharpener is put to the challenge today to see if we can get this chef's knife super dull and then bring it back to razor sharpness. So today we're talking about the 4 discs. There's actually 2 new discs that you can get for the Hone knife sharpener. 2 of them come with the sharpener, a 400 and a 1000, and now they have a 3000 ceramic and a 200 coarse grit. So this really lets you get a nice range on your knives and pretty much take care of any issue. There is a 3rd additional disc that's in the process that will be coming out. We'll talk about that once that happens, but for now, you now have 4 grits to choose from, which is absolutely fantastic. So we're gonna dull our knife. We're going to dull it well. Then we're going to go ahead and start with the 200 grit. We're going to move on to the 400 grit, go to the 1000 grit, and then we're going to finish off with the 3000 grit ceramic. And then I actually strop my knife afterwards, so I'm going to do a little stropping afterwards as well. But you'll see we're going to take this knife from horribly dull to wicked sharp. We're not going to test this first because I know it's pretty sharp from the factory. So I'm going to do what I've never done before. I'm going to take this knife and I'm going to dull it up. This is my leveling stone for my whetstone. The only thing I've used this on is my Japanese knife, which I still may continue to do. I really enjoy it. So this though is, here we go, to dull this up. Oh. Okay, that's enough. Can't handle it anymore. Let's see. Yeah, it feels pretty dull. So we'll go ahead and test this, and we're gonna see what the BESS tester tells us when it comes to the sharpness of this knife. Now to set this up, we're going with a new 200 grit, which I have right here, conveniently placed. It's not designed for this. I just put these under to hold them, which is kind of cool. So we got the 200. We're going to start with that. And then after that, we're going to go to the 400. So here you'll see there's a number 1 and a number 2 that come with it. The number 1 is the 400. The number 2 is the 1000. So we're going to go ahead and save the 1000. We'll put the 400 on the other end, and we'll move to those 2 once we get done with our initial process. Now, a lot of people ask, how many times do you have to go back and forth? I don't know. You have to go back and forth until you get a burr, is what most people tell you. Now, once a knife is sharp or it gets a little dull, you don't really need to do a burr. You can actually use a sharpener, sharpen it back up without that burr. But if you're going for the fundamentals on a real dull knife, you got to get that burr, get that edge, and then you go and hone that off and do the other side and get that apex where we want it to be. So we'll take these off right here, put these here, and we're going to go ahead and this one, I don't even know and couldn't find out what it is. So I'm just going to do 20 degrees on this one. It's a standard chef knife. The Hone holder, as you know, has multiple angles. It also has the small knife side for a real small knife. And what I love about it is that it doesn't have feet to pop off and it stays in place when you're going to use it. So we'll go ahead and use the 20 degrees for now. These magnets are incredible. So we'll go ahead and see this. It just goes on like so. Get this out of the way. And we're going to go ahead and start with the 200 grit. Here's our 200 grit. And all you're going to do is basically take this, put it up against the knife. You don't need a lot of pressure. And we're going to go back and forth quite a bit because this is really dull. So I'm probably going to start off with maybe, say, 30 passes. Okay, so here we go. Sounds great, doesn't it? By the way, when you first get your discs, they'll make a lot of noise, and that's because they're brand new. Once you start working those discs for a while, that extreme harsh rubbing, it'll actually tone down. You'll still hear it, but when you first get it, you think, oh my God, what's going on? That's standard for all these type of disc sharpeners. And what's nice about this is that the discs are big enough on this compared to other sharpeners that it gets the whole blade without having to elevate it or use a chopping block unless you get something really big. But we'll go ahead and use this back. Okay, so that's 30 on this end. We'll see if we can feel a burr at all. And because it's so coarse, I have a burr already. I can feel it. And how you can tell you have a burr is if you take your fingernail and run it up the blade, not down the blade, up the blade, you'll feel it catch. And you can actually hear a click. Listen. That's the burr. So I'm not bringing it over the top. I'm just going straight up on the edge. Hear that? It's caught. So we're going to flip it around. And on this one, 30 seemed to be a good number. So we'll go ahead and take the 200 grit again. and we'll go ahead and do 30 runs. What we're doing is we're taking this knife down and we're grinding it, getting that apex back, so that way you have the point, because right now it was just a mush, and I don't have a microscope. Maybe down the road I'll have something to look at, but I can tell you that this edge was really, really rough. And what's funny is, I mean, it's a $5 knife, but I can see when I'm running this knife, it's perfect. And right towards the back of the end, the heel right here, it is not perfect. The way they made this knife, it's janky. It's not actually perfectly straight. You can't do anything about that, but I don't care. It's not about the knife. It's about the sharpening. And we're going to test in this range right here anyway to see where we're at, but you'll get the idea, because on a good knife, it works all the way up and down. So we're almost done with this. And I'm gonna get my handy dandy rag. I'll be right back. See how it feels and how it looks. So I can see now, of course, there's, it's hard to tell, but you can see at the top of this knife, it's very jagged at the very top. Now we've got the edges coming together, but we're gonna have to go ahead and move up a notch, and we're gonna go to the 400 disc. It's a process. It doesn't take very long, as you can see, and we're gonna take it all the way through the ceramic and then the stropping. So next thing we're gonna do is we'll put the 20 on, and we're gonna actually turn this over. We're gonna hit the 400 now this time. So 400, here we go. This will actually feel smoother, it'll sound smoother, and that's because as you go up in numbers, you go finer for the grit. Again, I'm just a chef and a pit master who has learned how to sharpen knives. I love knives, but I'm not a knife guy, I'm not a sharpener guy, but I'm a guy that uses these tools, and I use them all the time. And so I really want people to not be intimidated by this, because it's really just a learning process. It's not hard, it just takes time. And with the Hone rolling knife sharpener, the thing that's great, you don't need practice, and you can just do it. You don't need to worry about the angles, other than what angle is it. But you know, on a whetstone, you have to actually hold the degree, you have to have muscle memory. It is a challenge, and a lot of people get turned away from it, and then they don't want to do it. So this really brings everything to your sharpening with super, super simple instructions, and it's very easy to do. So we're gonna go ahead and make sure this feels smooth. And again, it was really rough, so I can feel this is actually smoothing down, and I can actually see the metal coming off this knife, and I guarantee this is not high-end steel. So you could see here, it's probably hard to see, but I'm getting a lot of dust on that coming up. You see that at all? Okay, we're gonna turn it over and do the other side. And you can, do it this way if you want. If you're left-handed, flip it over, do it with your left hand. I am left-hand dominant for writing, but I'm right-handed for other things, so I use my right hand. So we'll go ahead and do this now. And this is the 400, so we're gonna do this for another 30 or so. But then we're gonna go and repeat the process on this, because now we're gonna start getting this blade finer and finer, which is gonna take a couple times back and forth. So now, wipe this off. And I can already tell that really super rough top, I can actually even see, it's now smoothed out. So that kind of sawtooth that was there, that was really pronounced in person, is almost gone. So we're gonna go ahead and flip it around again. And we're gonna now hit it again with the number 1, which is the 400. And we're gonna repeat this process a couple times just to get that blade down, and then we'll move on to the 1000. There will be a grit coming out between the 400 and 1000. That's in the works, which is great. So you will not need anything else for your rolling sharpener needs with the Hone. Okay, and we'll turn this around again. So we're finished up with our 400 grit. Now we're gonna move on to the next 2 grits, the 1000 and the 3000 ceramic. So we're gonna do a quick change here real quick with these discs. Super, super easy to do. We'll go ahead and take our handy dandy, whatever tool you want to get in there and pop that disc out. If you have fingernails, which I don't, you can do it easily, and I don't, so we're going to take these out. Again, they're magnets, super easy to come out. And now we're going to put the ceramic on one end. It doesn't matter what end you go on, they'll fit on either end. This says 3000 grit, put that on. I like how this formed too. This is really, really nice. It's not just a flat surface, it's kind of a nice puck that sticks up, which I thought was really well done. And then, of course, the number 2, which is the 1000. So we're going to start with the 1000 on this, and we're going to go to 1000, and then we'll go over to the ceramic, and we'll do our test, and we'll see how the Hone sharpened this knife that was over 900 on the BESS scale. So before I do my test, I want to explain to you a little bit about the BESS knife tester. This is the ultimate way to test your knife. It's definitive, it's done scientifically, it's calibrated, and it measures the gram pressure going down on the blade. This blade was at 900 grams of pressure. which is super, super dull. You don't get a factory knife that's really over 300 when it comes to the factory, maybe 325, but that's really where your knife should start and go down from there. But this was 900 because I used our flattening stone and I got that knife really dull. Now, what this does is there's a fulcrum here that you put the knife on, and there's a test media strip or a piece of filament that goes across here that you set the knife down upon. One of the things I want people to know is you'll see my testing. I was trained by the company that makes this as how to do the test correctly. You see these other knife testers out there, or these other people testing their knives and showing what they're doing. They're slamming it down, they're doing this, they're doing all sorts of crazy stuff. You have to go very slow and very slow pressure till that test media breaks. That tells you truly, is that knife sharp? I can take kind of a dull knife and slam it on that media and break it, but that's not the point. So if you see these tests and somebody's not doing a tester and they use just paper, and that's fine, we can use the paper. But to me, I don't need paper. I just do the test on here. If I'm 100 or 89 or 110, I'm in really, really razor sharp range and I'm done. So that's the sharpener that I use. And now we're gonna go ahead and test this and see where we're at. This is 900. And we're gonna try to get it down into the below 100 range. Let's see how we go. We're gonna go 30 on this one, on the 1000. So easy, so simple. Roll so smooth, stays in place. And what's nice about this sharpener that I'll tell you is that the other sharpeners that I've tried, their holders, you have to make sure the knife is all the way at the bottom and holding it. And you'll see people also holding their knife like this on some. That's because the magnets aren't strong enough and they're not big enough. And these are the largest magnets you'll ever see so far to date on a knife sharpener like this. But you can just set this down and even halfway, like so, that's not moving. And that's what I like. So you can bring up the blade on those knives and bring it to the top. And I mean, look at this. Stays right in place. There's no flex on this thing. The knife's not doing this and it's not doing this. You'll see that with other sharpeners as well. So again, I just think when it comes to the rolling sharpener, 𝗙𝗢𝗟 really has done a great job re-engineering and designing the rolling sharpener really from the ground up. So everything about it you can see here talks about all the overviews of what we're doing. So we're gonna go ahead and flip this over. And again, we can just go up on top if we want. And we'll go and do this side. Now we're going to do another 30. We're going to go ahead and clean off the blade and see what we think is going on here. Let's give it a little clean off. And I can see there's barely some steel on there because we're going to a finer grit. The finer grit you go, the less steel residue you'll see on the blade. And I can already tell you, okay, this should dig into my nail, and it's really not yet. Almost there, not yet. So we're going to go for a while on the 1000, and we're going to get this going, and we'll do another 30 on this. Actually, you can see here this steel dust on here, okay? This is the other huge benefit of this sharpener. The other sharpeners cannot get placed underwater. If you do, I think you could have problems. This actually is all steel. You can place it underwater. What's nice, you can pop the disc out, take it over to the sink, wash it off, and bring it back. Or in this case, I can just throw out my towel, rub it off, get all the steel off of it. That quick, it's like brand new again. Put it back on, and then we're gonna go back with the 1000 again. Now when you do this sharpening, you definitely do want to get a burr, working your way up through the 200, the 400, and then the 1000 also. I want to get that slight burr going on there, and then we'll move on to the ceramic. Now, how many times do you do this? I start with 30 on each side until I get a burr. With a 200, you're gonna get the burr right away. It's pretty quick. 400 a little longer, 1000 a little longer. And of course, we're not doing a burr with the ceramic because we're honing, which really isn't sharpening technically, but it kind of does sharpen. I won't get into arguments about that, but I find that it actually does make my knives sharper. So technically, whether it's aligning an edge or doing something else, to me, if it makes it sharp, it's sharpening. But from the sense of removing metal, honing this with a ceramic will not remove metal. If it does, it's so minute you probably can never detect it. So we're gonna go ahead and do from 30 down to 15. I'm gonna flip that over. We'll do another 15. And flip it over, do 5. Flip it over and do 5. Flip it over, and I'm going to do 2. And and then we're going to clean the knife blade off. And we're going to check this out, and we're going to test and see where we're at. Now, if we're not sharp enough, we're going to go ahead and we're going to continue back to the 1000, but what we're going to do next, we're going to go to the ceramic. So 20 degrees. Remember, we put it on before, so we just turn it over. There's our ceramic. Beautiful ceramic disc. I mean, that's really, really nice. And we're going to go ahead now, we're going to do the ceramic. How many times do the ceramic? Well, I would say at least 10 to 15 times per side. So, and what's funny is you could hear a little bit of catch in the very beginning, and it's gone. And so that's taken any micro abrasions off, but it's, I mean, oh, that 3000 just feels like butter. So I did 12. We'll do 12 on the other side. You want to do even on each side. You can see it's actually taken that off. And don't worry about this. It's going to get dirty. It's fine. You could scrub it. It'll probably get a permanent stain on there, but it doesn't affect at all the ability to hone the knife. So we'll go ahead and take this again. And I like to actually do it again and flip it over, do it twice. So I'm going to go down and do this one 10 times. And by the way, there's no right or wrong. You'll do whatever you want to do. That's fine. I have my way of sharpening that works for me. You'll find the way of sharpening that works for you. And as long as you get a sharp knife, that's all that matters, right? Okay, now, Hone is releasing a leather strop, so you can get that on their website. And also, I will have that in my Amazon store as well. All my sharpening utilities that I use, all my accessories, everything's in my Amazon store. Everything you see is things that I have most of the time purchased. Some of the things have been for doing reviews, but everything I use and continue to use, if I don't use it and don't like it anymore, it will come out of the Amazon store, because I want people to know that when they're going to the store, they're seeing everything that they can get that I'm showing when it comes to Hone with the discs, the strop, and everything. I want it in one place for you. So we're gonna go ahead and now strop this. What you do with a leather strop is you're basically gonna take and we're gonna polish that edge. Now when we strop, you have to strop the proper angle. You never wanna strop in towards you where the blade's at, because you're gonna basically cut your leather, which you don't wanna do. So it's always gonna be starting with the blade side down, and you're basically moving away from the blade. Now, how do you know what angle to do? Well, sometimes it's tricky, it's muscle memory, but a little trick that I do is I feel with my edge of my fingers, the blade edge, where it meets the actual leather, and you can actually move it back and turn it up to where it stops. Once it stops and grabs the edge, that's about your 20 degrees. If you want to be extra sure, I put my finger on top here, I tip the knife up so I can feel it perfectly smooth, like a ramp, so nothing's catching, and that's where I want to strop from. So basically you can start and do one half, or you can do the bottom half, or you can move across, a lot of people do, to do the whole blade at one time. You just have to practice, but you don't need a lot of pressure. Matter of fact, you don't want a lot of pressure, just contact with the leather strop, and you're gonna move across here, maybe 8 or 9 or 10 times. You will hear things about diamond, liquid diamond, diamond dust, a lot of things they put on there, and I know it works incredible, but I am not into knives that much with sharpening that I'm going to spend money on 15 different degrees of things to get my knife to where it needs to be. But some people love it. It's really cool when they get that mirror polish. I just don't spend that much time on it because I've got to do things for catering and preparing for cooking and barbecue and things like that. So I'm about just getting this knife really sharp in functionality. I turn it over on this side, and I can feel with my fingers that I'm smooth on here, and just run it across like so. Again, 10 or 11 times is all I really need. And we'll go ahead and test it off and see where we're at on the BESS tester. So the results on this were impressive. 162 on the BESS scale, 162. Now, when it comes to the BESS scale, I'm going to show you the scale here right now. This is the chart to look at, and we started out at over 900, which is severely rolled edges. You can go all the way up to 2000 on this thing, which is I think it's a butter knife. So I started out at almost 1000, which is, you're not gonna cut jack at 1000, let me tell you, it's not gonna work. Right at the sharpest end of a utility razor blade. The Hone did it well, it did it easily, but I also had a knife that I had dulled to obliterate and then brought it back to sharpness. So absolutely incredible. 164 is actually below shaving sharp, 100 to 150, which is nuts sharp, or around nuts sharp. That is the Hone sharpener. Hope you guys check out my other videos on the Hone. Check out the information below. I will have a discount code that Hone has graciously provided for all of my followers and viewers to order a Hone at an incredible price. And let me tell you something, I honestly mean this. I think this is the best value on the rolling sharpener market when it comes to price, the accessories, the cost of the accessories. Nothing really comes close. There is something new that's come to the market that I'll be doing a review on, so watch my other reviews and check out the 3-way shootout that I have coming up, because you're going to want to see that and see how home compares to 2 other rolling knife sharpeners. Until the next time, smoke on, baby!